Welcome back, everybody, to the Miami Marlins franchise here on MLB The Show 23. Today, we will be kicking off season number 2 of the series. Beforehand, we will briefly go over spring training and final roster decisions and whatnot. If you would like to skip through this part right into the regular season, there will be a timestamp in the description. Before we get started, though, there is one more roster move that I want to make. We never properly got a backup catcher, so we're going to bring back Jacob Stallings. We did not offer him arbitration in the offseason. However, there aren't really many better choices for us, so I'm going to give him a short 2-year deal with a mutual option for the second year so we can get out of it after this upcoming season. I'm also going to take Taylor Trammell off the 40-man roster just so we can get Stallings on it. So this is what the lineup looks like for spring training. You may notice main guys like Jazz Chisholm, along with some of our new additions like Rowdy Tellez and Harrison Bader, are not in the spring training lineup. I really want to focus on guys who are on the roster bubble, give them extra playing time, and then with a week or two before spring training, I'm going to switch it over to our regular lineups, and the same goes for the pitchers as well. I'm excited to watch these young guys like Gennaro Miller and Jacob Berry face off against big league pitchers. And then in the rotation, again, guys like Cabrera, Rogers, Alcantara, Jordan Hicks. We don't need them to prove anything, so they will pitch towards the end of spring training. But right now, I'm focused on our final few spots in the rotation, and it's going to come down to Jesus Luzardo, Sixto Sanchez, and Braxton Garrett. Garrett will get an opportunity to start games, while the young guys like Yuri Perez, Gennaro Miller, and Max Meyer will also get to pitch. I'm excited to see what Meyer does because last year he did not pitch at all with Tommy John surgery. He is back. He is good to go. Anthony Bender is also coming back from Tommy John surgery as well, so it'll be good to see what he ends up doing. So we're going to simulate to the end of spring training. Around the 17th or so is when I'm going to switch the lineups to get our regular players in there. And ultimately, we ended up going 12-13 through spring training, but we did have a positive run differential, so that's cool. As we take a look at some of the notable performers, a lot of our everyday guys like Arise, De La Cruz, and Jazz Chisholm all produced very well. Harrison Bader was good too. And now as we get towards the middle, guys like Sanchez, Edwards, Segura, they were okay. Jacob Berry was fine. And then as we get to the bottom, these players were not as good. As for the pitching, Jesus Luzardo really proved himself. I'm happy to see him do well. I thought the bullpen for the most part was pretty good. And then Sixto Sanchez pitched fine as well. He outperformed Braxton Garrett for what it's worth. And then these guys down here did not do as well. Perez, Miller, and Meyer were all a little bit underwhelming. And even Edward Cabrera and Sandy Alcantara both struggled, but I'm not too worried about them. We know what we've got with those guys. So we've got to send 14 players down to the minors. There were a few players we signed in the offseason in Mundo Sosa, Raimel Tapia, and Victor Robles, who we basically signed to one-year tryout contracts. And none of them really impressed me, and there's not really a spot for them in our system. So I think we're just going to DFA them. I would rather prioritize the development of our younger guys. We took a flyer on these 3 players, and it didn't really stick, which is fine. But we gave it a shot, so we'll see what happens ultimately with them gone. We still have 11 additional roster spots left up for grabs. So these are the players who we're going to be sending down. As we look at our pitchers, the young guys like Perez, Miller, and Meyer, they never really had a shot at the big leagues for this season. Yuri Perez probably will get called up at some point during the year, assuming he plays well. Devin Smelter will also be sent down. In the bullpen, Jorge Alcala and JT Jarquat do not make the initial roster. We're also going to send down Anthony Bender. He's only pitched 1 inning since his Tommy John, so I'd rather give him more time. As for the infield, Charles LeBlanc made the final roster. Jacob Berry is going to go down to AAA. I think he'll be called up at some point this year. Jordan Groshad's really disappointed, so he will start the year in the minors, whereas, again, a guy like LeBlanc played really well. In the outfield, we're going to send down Luis Matos and Ethan Wilson, and that is everybody. Our 26-man opening day roster is complete, and obviously this is subject to change with injuries, performance, and all that. So a lot of the guys who did not make the final roster will still get an opportunity at the big league level this season. So we've now made it to year 2. The 2024 season kicks off, and this is what our lineups will look like to start the year. This is what we're going to be rolling with against righties. Pretty standard, and again, this is subject to change based on how guys play. And then here we go against lefties. I had to make the tough decision of not having Brian De La Cruz play against lefties, but he was really bad last year against lefties. So if that holds up, then we'll be better off with a guy like Jorge Soler there. As for the pitching rotation, Jesus Luzardo will be the 4th starter, Sixto Sanchez will be the 5th starter, and Braxton Garrett will be the lone reliever. But both Luzardo and Sanchez have very short leashes. Neither of them pitched well in the big leagues last year. and I need to see them perform well if they want to keep their spots. As for the bullpen, our new free agent signing, Jordan Hicks, will open up the season as the closer. So in this episode, we will play our opening game against the Atlanta Braves. I would play our home opener, but it's also against the Braves, and I don't want to play against the same team twice. So we're going to play one of these games in our next home series against the Dodgers, and we've also got a small scouting cameo in today's episode as well. I'm excited to take our first look into the draft class here for season number 2. But let's get started here with opening day on the road in Atlanta against the Braves. Atlanta obviously won the World Series in 2021, and since then it's been a little disappointing for them. They won the division in both 2022 and 2023, just to lose to the 6th-seeded Phillies in the NLDS both seasons. So they are out for blood here in 2024, and that starts here against our Miami Marlins, who are looking to improve upon a solid 75-87 season last year. We were around 500 at the All-Star break before kind of falling off towards the final months of the year, but with some new additions made in the offseason and some younger guys hopefully progressing, I am certainly hoping that the team will be able to take a leap up into year number 2 as we take a look at both lineups. Regular starters across the board. On the mound for the Atlanta Braves is Spencer Strider. He was fantastic last year. Not only did he win the NL Cy Young, but he also won the NL MVP, the first pitcher to do it in the National League since Lord knows when. So he's obviously coming off a great season, and our Marlins might be in for a challenge against him. It'll be a 1-2-3 inning here at the top of the first, finished off by a Jazz Chisholm grounder over to second. Let's go to the bottom of the first, get a look at Miami's ace, Sandy Alcantara, who won the Cy Young in 2022. He was just as good last year, but he was not an all-star because he got injured right before the all-star break. But he was still fantastic, 32 starts, sub 2.25 ERA, sub 1 whip. But Vaughn Grissom's going to look to get the damage early as this one is hit off the wall in left center field, and Grissom will make it over to second with a double. And so the Braves have the runner in scoring position as they look to strike first. That'll now bring up the third baseman, Austin Riley, with 2 away and a 2-2 count. Riley finished in second for the NL MVP last year, only behind his teammate Spencer Strider as he grounds it to second. And Arise makes the throw, and that'll wrap up the first. No runs for either team, 1 hit for Atlanta. We'll see if either team can get something going in the second. Here's Rowdy Tellez, acquired via trade late in the offseason from Milwaukee. And his first at-bat as a Marlin is a pretty good one as this goes into the gap. One hopping off the wall. Tellez looks to make it to second safely, and he does with a double. Rowdy Tellez is pretty slow, but boy, he can swing the bat. So Tellez is in scoring position. That'll bring up one of the other new additions, Harrison Bader, who signed a 2-year contract in free agency. He takes an early swing and a miss at the slider for strike 3. Good pitch by Spencer Strider. Let's go bottom 2. The former Marlin, Marcell Ozuna, hits it hard. Wouldn't be the first time for him. And then Xavier Edwards misses the throw. I'll give Edwards some credit. That was a tough play at short, but it will be a throwing error as he misfires. And the Braves will start the inning with a base runner. That'll bring up the big first baseman, Matt Olson, and he will check his swing on the 12-6 curve. Nice pitch by Sandy Alcantara. Now facing off against the catcher, Travis d'Arnaud. 2-2, 2 away. Ozuna on second. And Alcantara gets him to swing and miss on the sinker. 2 scoreless innings for both pitchers. So far, so good for each of these elite aces. Into the third now. Xavier Edwards draws a walk. And so the Marlins will get an early base runner aboard. And Edwards has some wheels. 83 speed, 59 steal. He's going to look to use that to his advantage here as he looks to swipe second. And is safe, despite a good throw behind the dish by d'Arnaud. With that, the Marlins have the runner in scoring position, and a Gene Segura base hit would be able to drive them in. Count is full now. Edwards looks to swipe for third again. Segura is going to draw a walk. Edwards is safe. And now there's runners on the corners here for Jazz Chisholm, who's got a big opportunity to strike, but he goes down looking on the fastball. That pitch was inside. He thought it was ball 4, but does not get the call. Strider gets out of the jam as we are still scoreless. Bottom 3, Orlando Arcia goes down looking, really putting an emphasis on the see ya. Head back to the dugout. That'll bring up Vaughn Grissom now, the young shortstop. 2-2, grounder up the middle, and Sandy Alcantara is dominating through 3 innings, picking up right where he left off from last season as we are still scoreless through 3. Will either offense score in the 4th? Jesus Sanchez leads off the inning for the Marlins, and he goes down looking on an inside fastball as well. Following batter, Harrison Bader hits it up the middle. Ozzie Albies deflects it, but Bader is safe at first, and that'll be his first base hit as a Miami Marlin. We'll see if Nick Fortes, last year's Major League Stud of the Year, can drive him in, and he does not, as he strikes out on the slider low and outside. Good pitch by Strider, who now has 4 scoreless. Bottom 4, Ronald Acuna Jr., the superstar, lines it into left field. That'll drop for a hit. Acuna's got some wheels himself, 82 speed. We'll see if the Braves can look to drive him in and put themselves on the board. That'll bring up Austin Riley, the best position player in the National League last year. He'll go down looking on the circle change. Alcantara's 4th strikeout of the game. Marcell Ozuna up next, grounds it to third. Segura to a rise to Tellez, and that'll end the inning. A 5-4-3 double play. Still no score through 4. Into the 5th now. Xavier Edwards leads off the inning. Drew a walk in his last at bat. Edwards rips this one into the gap. That should go for extra bases. Edwards will waltz his way over to second with a double, and the Marlins have a speedy runner aboard in scoring position with nobody out. This is their prime opportunity to drive in a runner. Edwards is now at third, 1 away for Luis Arraez, who puts this ball into play, hits it well into center, and it is caught by Michael Harris. Edwards will look to score. The throw from the cutoff man is not in time, and we finally have offense. It's a sacrifice fly from Luis Arraez, and the Marlins lead it 1-0. Let's go bottom 5th now. Matt Olson rips it down the line. Nice play by Rowdy Tellez. Again, he's not the speediest. He's not the most fleet of foot, but he makes a really nice play there for the first out. Following batter, Ozzie Albies, the 3-2. He swings way too early. He might have swung before the pitch was thrown. I don't know what he was doing there. Travis d'Arnaud up next, the 1-2. Hits this one well into right, but it will be caught by Harrison Bader, and Sandy is cooking. 5 scoreless innings for Sandy Alcantara as we go into the 6th. The Braves will make a surprise pitching change. Dylan Lee is in. I think the strategy here is that the next 3 batters for the Marlins are all lefties. Chisholm, Tellez, and Sanchez as Chisholm grounds out. That'll bring up Rowdy Tellez. So far 1 for 2 in his Miami Marlins debut. Pitch from Lee. Got him looking on the fastball. Rowdy Tellez is a free agent in the offseason trying to make himself some extra money. Jesus Sanchez up next. 0 for 2 today. He's been pretty quiet as Sanchez swings and misses at the high fastball. I was a little bit surprised they took Spencer Strider out early, but they take advantage of the matchups. Alcantara gets through the 6th with no problem as Vaughn Grissom strikes out, and Sandy right now is showing no signs of slowing down. Let's go into the 7th now. It's still 1-0, only 5 total hits today, as Nick Anderson, the Major League veteran, is in for the Braves. 6.08 ERA a season ago. He's certainly hoping to do better. Harrison Bader will lead the inning off for the Marlins, and he draws a walk on the inside fastball. That's a tough one to lay off. So Bader is aboard. That'll bring up the catcher, Nick Fortes. Rips it up the middle, and he'll go for a single. And the Marlins have 2 runners on with nobody out as they look to potentially put a cushion onto their 1-0 lead. Xavier Edwards is up next. He has reached base in both of his plate appearances so far, and this time he gets plunked. It looked like it might have hit his wrist, and now the bases are loaded. What an opportunity for the pinch hitter of Asael Garcia, who checks into the game for Brian De La Cruz. De La Cruz has a low clutch rating, so that's the reason for this decision, and boy does it pay off. Garcia rips it into the gap in left center. 2-run score. Edwards looking to join him. It's a bases clearing 3-run double for Abisael Garcia, and the Marlins take a 4-0 lead. Nick Anderson would abruptly be taken out of the game, replaced by Colin McHugh, but that doesn't really seem to be changing much for the Braves as Gene Segura hits this one into the gap. That'll score Abisael Garcia, and it is now 5-0. A 4 spot so far here in the 7th inning for the Marlins, but I'm not sure if they're done. Jazz Chisholm hits this one a mile into the air, deep in a left center field, and that one is gone. A 2-run shot for Jazz Chisholm, his first of the year, and the Marlins now lead 7-0 as they have scored 6 runs here in the 7th inning with still only 1 out. Rowdy Tellez is up next, and he will get plunked. Okay, interesting. Are the Braves trying to throw at these Miami hitters? That'll bring up Jesus Sanchez now. Hits a hanging pitch up and away in the zone for a single. And now there's 2 runners aboard with still only 1 out. Miami scored 6, but they're not showing any signs of slowing down. The Braves will turn to their 3rd pitcher of the inning. Tyler Nutsack Matzik is in for the Braves. Here's Nick Fortes with a moonshot into left field, and that one is gone. A 3-run shot for Nick Fortes, and it is now 10-0 Miami. The Marlins have scored 9 runs here in the 7th inning. The following batter will be Charles LeBlanc coming off the bench, and he hits this one into the seats. If it's fair, it's gone, and it is. A solo shot for Charles LeBlanc in his first at-bat of the season. As the Marlins go back-to-back, they have now scored 10 runs here in this inning as it is 11-0. The Braves will turn to their 4th separate pitcher of just the inning. Joe Jimenez is in for the Braves, the former Tiger, as he faces off against Avisail Garcia, who strikes out. The Marlins went through like a lineup and a half in that inning as they scored 10 runs. Sandy Alcantara was supposed to pitch in the 7th inning, but since Miami's up by so much, there's no reason for him to. Instead, it's Wandy Peralta, the former Yankee, who would retire the side. Let's go into the 8th inning now. Joe Jimenez still in. He appears to be doing pretty well, but Jazz Chisholm hits this ball high and deep into right center field, and it is gone. Consecutive innings with a homer for Jazz Chisholm, his 2nd of the game, and the Marlins now lead it 13-0. An offensive entourage here against the Atlanta bullpen. Jesus Sanchez up next, and he gets plunked. The Braves are starting to throw at these Miami batters. Sanchez clearly and rightfully frustrated. Bottom of the 8th now. A.J. Puck is in for Miami as he faces off against Travis d'Arnaud, who hits this one into the gap out in left center. That should score a run as the shutout is dead, and the Braves will make it 13-1 with a huge double. Cut the lead to 12. Let's go to the bottom of the 9th now. It's still 13-1. There's no reason to waste one of our regular bullpen arms, so instead, we're going to have Avisail Garcia pitch here in the 9th inning. A position player on the mound. We saw it last year with Jorge Soler. I tried to have it be Soler again, but the game wouldn't let me. Austin Riley crushes this one into right center field, and that ball is gone. This is what happens when you put a position player on the mound. Riley with his first home run of the year, and it's now 13-2. Matt Olson will look to join him. He's going to go Oppo Taco into left as that one is hit into the bullpen for a solo home run, and it is now 13-3. A real rally here from Atlanta with a pair of solo home runs against a position player. Travis d'Arnaud grounds it up the middle. Avisail Garcia makes the play, and the Marlins win opening day 13-3. This game started off as a low-scoring pitcher's duel. It was 1-0 after the 6th inning with 2 brilliant performances by Spencer Strider and Sandy Alcantara. Then we scored 10 in the 7th. The bases clearing double by Avisail Garcia really got it all set, and then the RBI double by Segura, 2-run shot by Chisholm, 3-run shot by Fortes, and solo homer by LeBlanc was able to finish off the job. Sandy was great. The bullpen wasn't all that spectacular, especially Avisail Garcia, who allowed 2 homers in the 9th inning. But the Braves offense did not do enough until late in this game, and it was way too big of a deficit for them to realistically come back. So a really fun season opener. We're going to simulate through these next few series. We're going to wrap up this series on the road against Atlanta. We've got 4 games against them. Then we've got 3 at Great American Ballpark against the Cincinnati Reds, followed by 3 at home against the Atlanta Braves once again. We ended up going 4-5 in the games we simulated, making us 5-5 on the year. We lost the final 3 against the Braves, but we did sweep Cincinnati before taking just 1 of 3 against Atlanta. So before we hop into our next game against the Dodgers, I will be showing you guys the first look into the draft class here for season number 2, and we'll be doing our first prospect profiles of the year. So in this episode, we're only going to be talking about 2 prospects. In most episodes, we're going to go over more than that. But I wanted to go over these 2 guys here today because they kind of tie into each other. They have a very similar backstory. So I would like to introduce you guys to third base prospect Augustin De La Cruz and outfield prospect Kyle Brown. De La Cruz grew up in the Dominican Republic. Brown grew up in Ohio. Prior to this school year, with them being seniors in high school, they essentially swapped lives in a foreign exchange program. So Agustin De La Cruz is going through life now as a high school student in Ohio, playing high school baseball, while Kyle Brown is living in the Dominican Republic. Both players have flourished with their new changes of scenery and are expected to be high draft picks in this year's draft. We'll start with Agustin De La Cruz, who often goes by his nickname, Gus. Gus is projected as the 20th pick in the draft, so he could be in play for Miami's first-round selection at number 11 overall. De La Cruz is a 6'3", 201-pound third baseman who hits left-handed. His bat is the biggest asset of his game. He checks off all the boxes offensively. He hits for great average, great power, and he's got very advanced plate skills for an 18-year-old. He doesn't swing at bad pitches, and he's got pretty good plate vision. The rest of his game needs some work, however. He needs to improve on the base passes. He needs to improve defensively. But the most important part about his skill set is his bat, and he is a phenomenal offensive player. He has been the best high school hitter in America this year, similarly to Woody Landry last year, who we used the 10th overall pick on, and Landry's currently hitting .556 as an 18-year-old in Double-A, albeit he's only played 2 games down there. Although Gus is being projected as a mid-first-round pick, if his offense translates to the minors and eventually the big leagues, I think he could be one of the best players in this draft class, and I'm looking forward to scouting him more to see if he would be a good option for Miami's first-round pick at number 10 overall. The other player we're going to look at is Kyle Brown, who grew up in Ohio but is now in the Dominican Republic. Kyle Brown is not quite as good of a prospect, but I think he could be a gem in, say, the second or third round. Brown is a pretty good offensive player. He doesn't hit for the contact that De La Cruz does, but he has just as much power, and he's a little bit better defensively. His primary position is right field, but I do think he has the speed and range to play anywhere in the outfield, including center. Although he is currently projected as the 74th pick in the draft, our scouts really like him. Now, he's only 50% scouted, but I think he's a player who could be a big diamond in the rough. 6'3", 212 pounds. He's a righty. And again, his power is super impressive. His defense, his speed, all really good. He just needs to improve with his contact and his plate skills. And if he does, I think he could be really good. I think both of these players are being overlooked. And it's kind of ironic that their stories have essentially crossed paths. So let's now take a look at this series against the Dodgers, who are 8-1. They are really good. We're going to hop into this first game, get a look at Shohei Ohtani on the mound for LA. He'll be facing off against the lefty, Trevor Rogers. The Dodgers were the best team in baseball last year. They won 107 games. They made the World Series, but apparently that's not enough for them, and they decided to sign the best player in the bigs to an 8-year deal worth nearly $300 million. We've got this goofball throwing the first pitch, a little bit outside, but I think Angel Hernandez would have called that one a strike. The Marlins rocking their throwback jerseys today. I want to wear these jerseys more often as we take a look at both lineups. Harrison Bader getting the day off here for the Marlins as Trevor Rogers will be getting the start. The lefty's gotten off to a good start to the year. He is 1-0, 2.19 ERA, 1.3 whip as he faces off against the young second baseman Miguel Vargas, who singles into center. The Dodgers get an early base runner as they look to strike here in the first inning. That'll bring up Trace Thompson, the brother of NBA All-Star and future Hall of Famer Klay Thompson, as he will fly out to center. Jazz Chisholm will make the play. Good first inning for Trevor Rogers. Let's get a look at Shohei Ohtani, the best player in baseball, who through 9 games has an OPS over 1,000, an ERA below 2, and a whip below 1. I think it's safe to say this guy's pretty damn good. He'll be facing off against Gene Segura. It's a full count, and Segura gets hit on the shoulder. So the Marlins will get themselves a base runner. That'll bring up Rowdy Tellez, who's gotten off to a nice start. Here is a Marlin. He hits this ball high and deep in a left center field. Back at the track, at the wall. It is caught. An anticlimactic ending to the first inning as neither team is able to score. Let's go top 2 now. Chris Taylor, the super utility man, facing off against Rogers, and he will single into right field. I missed Brian De La Cruz's horrible reaction times in the outfield. I'm glad to see that's still a thing here in Season 2. Max Muncy grounds it to short, and the Marlins turn a 6-4-3 double play. Good work by the defense to turn 2. That'll bring up Michael Busch, who takes a big swing and a miss on the slider. A little lefty-on-lefty crime as Trevor Rogers makes it through the inning. Let's go to the bottom of the second now. Jesus Sanchez will lead things off here for Miami. He's got a 1-2 count here against Shohei Ohtani. That pitch well inside for ball 2. Let's go to the following pitch now. It's a 2-2 count here for Sanchez. And that pitch again well inside. What's going on here, Shohei? He already hit one Marlins batter today as Sanchez will ultimately go down looking. That was a pretty filthy pitch by Shohei. Into the third inning now. Andy Pages hits this one into center. That'll go for a hit, and the Dodgers get themselves another early base runner. We'll see if they can do any damage and potentially score first. Pages aboard for Gavin Lux. He goes down looking on the low fastball. That didn't look like a strike, but as we saw with the first pitch earlier today, Angel Hernandez is probably umpiring this game. Trace Thompson goes down looking, and that'll wrap up the third. So far, so good for Trevor Rogers as he's got 3 scoreless, and we are still tied at 0. Xavier Edwards gets hit. What the hell is happening? That's 2 guys who have gotten hit today, 1 guy who nearly got hit twice. So Edwards is aboard for Luis Ariz, who swings and misses at an inside cutter. I don't know if that was a really good pitch or Shohei just trying to go inside again. Jazz Chisholm then gets hit. Okay, something's going on here. That's the 3rd batter to get hit in this game. How are they not giving Shohei at least a warning? Rowdy Tellez is up next for the Marlins. The 2-2, swinging a miss at the fastball right down the middle. That was a perfect opportunity to capitalize and try to get the Marlins on the board, but he does not. Let's go to the 4th inning now. Ohtani is up. Trevor Rogers wants to make him a little bit uncomfortable as that pitch is well inside. 2-1 now. And again, Ohtani jumps out of the box. A statement here from Trevor Rogers, who now is behind 3-1. He doesn't want to walk Ohtani because he's really fast. So instead, Ohtani's going to drill a double into right field because that's just how cool Shohei Ohtani is, I guess. Despite nearly getting hit twice, Shohei will rip an extra base hit. He's now on third for Chris Taylor, who grounds it to Ariz, and he will make the play. But Shohei Ohtani will score, and the Dodgers take a 1-0 lead. Max Muncy up here for LA. He hits this one well into right center field. Chisholm back at the track at the wall. It is caught. Nice play. But the Dodgers do score, and they will take a 1-0 lead here through the middle of the 4th. Bottom of the inning now. Here is Jesus Sanchez, who nearly got hit twice during his last at-bat. He's going to look to make Shohei pay. This one is hit high, deep, and gone into left center field. Sanchez with his 3rd home run of the season, and the Miami Marlins will quickly tie this game up at 1. 402 feet for Sanchez. It's good to see him performing well this year. Sanchez struggled early last season, but played pretty well over the final few months. Jorge Soler will go down on the fastball. Both teams do score here in the 4th as we are tied at 1. Into the 5th now. Michael Busch will draw a walk to start things off here for the Dodgers. So that'll bring up Andy Pages, and he's going to hit this one well into center. His 2nd base hit of the day. Busch will make it over to 3rd, and the Dodgers have runners on the corners with nobody out. A big opportunity for them to take this lead right back. Austin Barnes getting the start for the catcher, Will Smith, who's getting the day off. He will single into left. That'll score Busch, and the Dodgers are up 2-1 with 2 runners on and nobody out for the top of the order. Gavin Lux strikes out on the fastball. Good pitch by Trevor Rogers. Miguel Vargas up next, and he will draw a walk. Vargas has phenomenal plate discipline for a player so young as the Dodgers load the bases, and from there, Trevor Rogers will be taken out of the game. Rogers performed really well through the first few innings, but he's gotten rocked here in the 5th, so he'll be taken out of the game and replaced by Jonathan Loaizaga, who has pitched in 6 games this year, 2.45 ERA. He's been pretty effective. Ever since he was acquired last year at the trade deadline, he's been really good, but he will allow a nice base hit to Shohei Ohtani, who will drive in 2. It's a 2-run single for Showtime, and the Dodgers take a 4-1 lead. Both earned runs will go against Trevor Rogers. Trace Thompson grounds it to Segura. Over to Ariz. To Tellez. 5-4-3 inning-ending double play. The Dodgers do score 3, however, as they lead this game 4-1. Let's go to the top of the 6th now. Reynaldo Lopez is in for Miami. He was signed this offseason from the White Sox and has not gotten off to a good start this year, but but he would get a nice scoreless inning as Pages grounds out to third. Let's go to the bottom half of the inning. Shohei Ohtani had 107 pitches, still on the mound as he walks Jazz Chisholm. So that'll put an early base runner aboard here, and from there, the Dodgers will take Ohtani out of the game. Shohei Ohtani will still be in the lineup as a DH, but his night on the mound is over. He'll be replaced by the lefty, Caleb Ferguson, who is not allowed to run yet for the Dodgers this year. Ferguson, for a brief period of time, was on our Orioles team in MLB The Show 21, so we know him a little bit here on this channel. Chisholm looks to steal second. Tellez is called out looking, but Chisholm does swipe the bag, so he is in scoring position. 2 away for Nick Fortes. He hits this ball high and deep into left field. It makes it to the warning track, but it is caught. The Marlins offense has not gotten a whole lot going for them. 1 run, 2 hits, that's it, along with a bunch of runners hit by pitch. Matt Barnes is into the game here in the 7th. He has not allowed a run so far this year. Austin Barnes will look to change that as he gets his second base hit of the game, a single into right. So Barnes is aboard, getting the hit off of Barnes, as Gavin Lux hits this one into left, and that one will go off the wall. Austin Barnes will score. It's a double for Gavin Lux, and Los Angeles will take a 5-1 lead. Good swing there by Lux. 2 away now for Trace Thompson, swinging a miss. That'll end the 7th. The Dodgers do score another run, however, as they now lead it 5-1. Let's go bottom 7. The Marlins offense trying to get something going. They only have 2 hits today. Brian De La Cruz is up, and he gets hit. Ferguson was aiming for his head. That's another batter hit by pitch. Clearly, this is intentional, right? That'll bring up Jorge Soler now. Soler hits a rocket into left field. Back at the track, at the wall. It is caught. I was really hoping that one was going to go over the fence, just as a big ol' FU to the Dodgers. Xavier Edwards is up next here with 1 away. It's a 1-2 count. That pitch is crushed by Edwards, but it goes foul. He was off by about 1.5 feet. That's pretty unfortunate. Let's go a couple pitches later. It's now 2-2. This pitch is high for ball 3. But on the play, Caleb Ferguson clutching at his shoulder. He'll be removed from the game, but that could be the least of his worries. Wow, karma's a son of the gun. Maybe you shouldn't have been throwing at Brian De La Cruz's head. I don't normally wish injuries on players, but it is a video game, and the Dodgers have been Bush League all night, so I can't say I'm too upset. Matt Moore will replace him. He has not allowed a run so far this season, 3.1 innings. As that will bring up Luis Ariz. Xavier Edwards would eventually be out, and Ariz will go down looking. So after all of that, the Marlins had near 2 home runs, but instead they don't drive anybody across, and it is still 5-1. Wandy Peralta will enter the game for the Marlins. He pitched 1 inning so far this year. That was on opening day, in which he did not allow a run. Well, he's going to allow a run here because Chris Taylor just launched an absolute piss missile off his bat for a solo home run into the left field seats, and the Dodgers extend their lead as it is now 6-1. Taylor with his first homer of the year. Andy Pages hits this one down the line, his 3rd base hit of the game, as that will go for a single. The Dodgers looking to up this lead as much as they can. They know the Marlins are kind of pissed off, so Miami is ready to retaliate. Austin Barnes gets plunked. That wasn't even intentional. That was just a bad pitch. Wink, wink. Gavin Lux grounds out to first. Tellez will make the play. The Dodgers only score 1 off the homer by Chris Taylor. Bottom 8, Matt Moore still in the game as he will walk Rowdy Tellez. The Marlins only have 2 hits, but they've gotten so many base runners off of walks and runners hit by pitch. Jesus Sanchez is up here, homered earlier, and he takes a big swing and a miss on the outside knuckle curve, and that will get the Dodgers out of the inning as it remains 6-1. Going into the 9th, the Marlins, by the way, still only have 2 hits. A.J. Puck is in for Miami. He has not done too well this year. In 4 innings, he has allowed 6 runs as he faces off against Chris Taylor. He'll fly it into right, De La Cruz under it, and he completely misses it. Not good. That will be an RBI double for Chris Taylor. They call it a double instead of an error, which is very odd to me. And the Dodgers now take a 7-1 lead. Los Angeles has built themselves some nice insurance going into the 9th inning, the bottom of the 9th to be specific, with Jimmy Nelson looking to finish off the game. He'll face off against Brian De La Cruz, who hits this one up the middle for a hit. Brian De La Cruz has 2 singles today. The only other hit by a Miami Marlin was the homer by Jesus Sanchez back in the 4th. Good to see De La Cruz kind of fix his mistake after the horrible defensive play earlier, but it's not going to matter. John Birdie coming in off the bench strikes out, and the Dodgers win it by the final score of 7-1. Not a great performance here from the Marlins. The offense laid an egg. They only had 3 hits. The Dodgers were playing cheap, though, with all those batters hit by pitch. But their offense did perform well. Trevor Rogers got off to a good start, but once we got into the 5th, the Dodgers really got going. As for runs, 3 runs, 2 walks, but 4 separate batters hit by pitch. Interesting. Would have been nice to see the Dodgers not play dirty, but that's neither here nor there. We're going to simulate the rest of this series here against the Dodgers, and we end up losing both games. So we get swept by the Dodgers, and we are now 5-8. I don't want to worry about it too much. We're only 13 games into the year. It's way too early to make any conclusions about this team, but hopefully we can play better here leading into these next couple of series against not-so-good teams like the Angels and Rockies. As we get towards the month of May in the next episode, we're going to continue looking at some prospects in the upcoming draft. So that'll wrap up the episode. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.